Look, everybody wanna be happy, but don't nobody wanna go through nothin to get there. You out here waitin' on the perfect situation, waitin' on life to go smooth before you smile. But let me tell you something. Happiness ain't about what happens to you. It's about how you respond to it. I done been broke. I done been homeless. I done been hurt, but I chose joy anyway. Because happiness is not a destination, it's a decision. You gotta wake up every morning and decide no matter what comes my way, I will be happy. I will be grateful. I will be focused. Today, I'm gonna teach you how to be happy when the sun is shining and when the storm is raging. Because if you can master that, ain't nothing in this world that can break you. Happiness is a choice, not a circumstance. That's not just a motivational line, it's the truth. The problem is, most people tie their happiness to what's happening to them, instead of what's happening within them. If everything is going right, money in the bank, relationships flowing, no stress at work, they're happy. But the moment something flips, they fall apart. That's because they've built their joy on conditions, not convictions. Let me tell you something. Life is unpredictable. One moment you're up, the next you're fighting just to stay standing. If your happiness is only active when life is smooth, you're in for a rough ride. You're handing over your power to people, problems, and situations. You're basically saying, I'll be happy if life treats me right. But here's the truth. Life doesn't owe you happiness. You owe it to yourself. You have to wake up every single day and decide, I'm going to be happy no matter what. I'm not talking about fake positivity. I'm not saying smile when your heart is breaking or pretend everything's perfect when it's not. I'm saying recognize that even in the chaos, you still have power. Power to think different. Power to shift your mindset. Power to say, this may not be what I wanted, but I'm still breathing, and I'm still blessed. See, happiness doesn't come from what you have, it comes from what you believe. There are people out there with nothing, and they're smiling like they own the world. And there are people with everything, cars, houses, fame, and they're empty inside. Why? Because they haven't learned that happiness starts from within. They're chasing temporary highs, not lasting peace. Choosing happiness means taking responsibility for your emotions. You can't blame your parents, your boss, your partner, or your past. You might not have chosen your pain, but you can choose your response. You might not control the situation, but you control your mindset. And the moment you understand that, the moment you take ownership, everything changes and you choose happiness. You're not saying life is easy, you're saying, I'm stronger than my situation. You're saying, my peace is not for sale. That doesn't mean you won't cry. That doesn't mean you won't get frustrated. It means that even in those moments, you don't let bitterness move in. You let the pain pass through you, not define the other's power. In that kind of joy, the kind that's not based on conditions, the kind that says, I'm good, not because everything is good, but because I've made a decision to stay grounded, to stay grateful, and to stay focused. That kind of mindset is rare, but it's the key to lasting happiness. Most people are reactive. Something bad happens, and they spiral. But when you've made the choice to be happy, you become proactive. You create joy, you protect your peace, and you don't let small things steal your energy. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, okay. Breathe, bless them, move on. Boss snaps at you, cool. Don't take it personal. Relationship gets rocky, alright. Let's work on it or walk away. But I'm not going to lose myself in the process. Best happiness is a decision you make before the day even starts. Before the phone rings, before the email hits, before someone tries you. It's a decision to own your day instead of letting your day own you. You train your mind just like an athlete trains their body. You get up, you affirm yourself, you set your focus, and you remind yourself, I choose joy today. Not because it's easy, not because everything's perfect, but because that's who I am. When you build that kind of internal strength, you stop chasing. You stop waiting for Friday to be happy. You stop depending on other people to validate you. You stop needing everything to go your way. Instead, you wake up, look in the mirror, and say, no matter what comes at me today, I'm gonna stay grounded. I'm gonna stay grateful. And I'm gonna smile because I've already made my decision. Gratitude is the foundation of joy. Most people are out here searching for happiness like it's buried treasure, like it's some secret locked behind success, money, or recognition. But the truth is, happiness doesn't start with having more. It starts with appreciating what you already have. Gratitude is not just saying thank you when life is going good. Gratitude is a perspective, a way of living where you recognize the value of the things, people, and moments already in front of you. See, the mind is powerful. If you constantly focus on what you lack, you'll always feel like something is missing. But when you shift that focus to what you have, everything changes. You could be in the same situation, but your experience of that situation transforms. It's like flipping a switch. You stop complaining, you stop comparing, and you start seeing the good even in the hard times. Gratitude humbles you. It reminds you that no matter how tough life gets, there are still blessings all around you. Woke up this morning, that's a gift. Got breath in your lungs, that's a blessing. Got people who care about you, food to eat, a roof over your head. You're already winning, but most people overlook those things. They're so focused on what they don't have, they forget how rich they already are. You know why gratitude is so powerful? Because it shifts your energy. When you're grateful, you stop operating from a place of lack and start operating from a place of abundance. You stop chasing happiness because you realize you already have pieces of it. You learn to find joy in the little things, the laugh of a loved one, a quiet moment to breathe, the strength to keep going. That's real wealth. That's the kind of mindset that keeps you grounded when the world is shaking. People think happiness is about removing all your problems, but happiness is about having the right perspective even in the middle of those problems. And gratitude gives you that lens. It doesn't ignore the pain, it just refuses to let the pain define everything. You can be hurting and still be grateful. You can be struggling and still say, man, I'm thankful I've made it this far. That kind of gratitude. That's where joy is born. Gratitude also changes how you treat people. When you're thankful, you become more patient, more kind, more understanding. You stop expecting people to be perfect. You start appreciating them for who they are. You start recognizing the effort, the love, the time they give even when it's not exactly how you imagined it. And that builds stronger relationships, deeper connections. Because people can feel when you appreciate them, and in a world full of criticism and negativity, appreciation is rare and powerful. It also builds resilience. When you're grateful, you can endure more. You can keep pushing through setbacks because your mind is trained to see something good, even in the chaos. That doesn't mean the pain goes away. It means you refuse to let that pain rob you of perspective. Gratitude says, "This is hard, but there's still something here for me. There's still growth. There's still beauty. There's still purpose seen." Let's be real, there's always something to be grateful for. Even on your worst day, there's something, but you gotta look for it. You gotta train your eyes to see it. Because the world is loud with distractions, with negativity, with reasons to complain. Gratitude is a quiet rebellion against all of that. It says, "I see the chaos, but I'm choosing peace. I see the loss, but I'm thankful for what remains. I see what I want, but I'm not blind to what I've got." The mindset. That's what keeps your spirit alive. That's what fuels consistent joy. Because when you live in gratitude, you're not waiting for the next big thing to feel happy, you're already full. You're not desperate for external validation, you've already acknowledged your blessings. And when new things come, you don't take them for granted. You receive them with open arms, but you're not dependent on them to feel whole. Gratitude doesn't just change your mood, it changes your life. It transforms how you walk through every season, how you deal with pressure, how you bounce back after failure. Because when your foundation is gratitude, you've built your joy on something solid, something that doesn't shake when circumstances do. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into miracles. It turns struggles into stepping stones. And it turns a surviving mindset into a thriving one. Control your response, not the situation. That's one of the hardest lessons to learn, but it's also one of the most powerful. Life is going to throw things at you that you can't control: unexpected problems, disappointments, losses, people letting you down, plans falling apart. That's just part of the game. But what separates the ones who crumble from the ones who rise is not what happened to them, it's how they chose to respond to it. You don't get to decide what life brings your way. You don't get to pick every challenge or avoid every setback. But you do get to decide how you show up in the face of it. You get to decide whether you react with panic or respond with purpose, whether you let it break you or build you. And that's where your power lives. It's not in controlling the chaos, it's in controlling your mindset within the cosmos. People live in reaction mode. Something goes wrong, they snap. Someone says something negative, they get angry. Life hits them with pressure, they shut down. But when you live like that, you give all your power away. You're letting your emotions be dictated by circumstances, letting your peace be controlled by things outside of you. That's a dangerous way to live, because the world is unpredictable. People are inconsistent, but your mindset, that can be trained, that can be strengthened, and that can become your anchor when everything else is shifting. Your response is your responsibility. You can't always prevent pain, but you can choose not to become bitter. You can't always avoid failure, but you can choose not to give up. You can't control other people's behavior, but you can choose not to let their negativity infect your spirit. That's the level of emotional discipline that creates true happiness. That's the type of strength that lets you walk through storms with your head high. It doesn't mean you don't feel things. It doesn't mean you're emotionless or numb. It means you acknowledge the emotion, but you don't let it take the driver's seat. You might feel hurt, but you still move with clarity. You might feel angry, but you respond with intention. You might feel discouraged, but you keep showing up. That's real control. Not pretending things don't bother you, but choosing how to deal with them when they do. Most successful, joyful, grounded people in the world have mastered this. They know that circumstances come and go, but their response defines their story. You ever meet someone who's calm even in the middle of chaos? That's not luck. That's not just personality. That's training. That's a decision they've made over and over again to respond with purpose instead of panic, to stay centered even when everything around them is shaking. And the truth is, your response creates momentum. If you respond with fear, you create a cycle of hesitation. If you respond with anger, you create tension. If you respond with doubt, you shrink. But when you respond with faith, with focus, with resilience, you create growth. You build strength. You create opportunities. Every challenge becomes a training ground for your character. Every delay becomes a lesson in patience. Every closed door becomes a redirection, not a rejection. And sometimes, your response inspires others too. You might not even know it, but people are watching how you handle the heat. They're watching how you move when it's hard. And when they see you stay calm, stay kind, stay grounded, they realize it's possible. You give them permission to rise above just by how you choose to show up. When you start focusing on what you can control, you take your power back. You stop wasting energy trying to change people who don't want to change. You stop stressing over outcomes you can't force. Instead, you focus on your habits, your attitude, your words, your actions. You put your energy into what's within your control, and you release the rest. That shift right there, that's where peace comes from. That's where confidence is built. Because no matter what life throws your way, you know you're in control of how you carry it. You don't fold under pressure, you adjust your grip. You don't give up in frustration, you get more focused. You don't let fear make the final decision, you let your vision lead the way. When you master your response, you master your life. Not because everything around you changes, but because you do. And that's where your real strength begins. Pain is part of the process, grow through it. This is the part most people want to skip. Everyone wants happiness. Everyone wants peace. But nobody wants to go through what it takes to get there. Pain is not the enemy. It's the teacher. It's the fire that forges strength, the struggle that builds character. You cannot become your best self without going through some things that test you, stretch you, and break you down, thus to rebuild you stronger. The problem is, we've been taught to run from pain. We avoid it, numb it, distract ourselves from it. But every time you run from pain, you're running from growth. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you're choosing stagnation over transformation. Pain is not pleasant, but it is necessary. It shows up when there's something inside of you that needs to be awakened, something that needs to change, something that needs to be let go. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in your life probably came after a season of struggle. Every time you leveled up, there was a cost. Maybe it was heartbreak. Maybe it was failure. Maybe it was loss. But that pain taught you what peace couldn't. It taught you resilience. It taught you empathy. It taught you how to rebuild when everything fell apart. That's the purpose of pain. It doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to develop you. There's no growth without discomfort. Muscles don't get stronger unless they're pushed to the edge. Diamonds aren't formed without pressure. Trees don't grow deep roots unless they face storms. You are no different. You have to stop asking for a painless life and start asking for the strength to grow through what you go through. Because happiness is not about avoiding all the hard things, it's about becoming the kind of person who can handle them with grace, with grit, and with purpose. When pain shows up, you have a choice. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can become bitter, or you can become better. But you can't do both. Growth is not automatic. Pain will knock on everyone's door, but not everyone will learn from it. Some people will let it harden them, others will let it humble them. The ones who grow are the ones who lean in, who ask the hard questions, who sit with the discomfort instead of running from it. And let me be real, growth through pain doesn't mean you won't cry. It doesn't mean you won't question yourself. It means you keep showing up even when it hurts. You keep moving forward even when you don't have all the answers. You keep your heart open even when it's been broken. That's strength. That's courage. That's what it means to grow through. You start to realize that pain has layers. There's the surface pain, the loss, the failure, the disappointment, but underneath that is the invitation, the opportunity, the message. Pain reveals what needs to be healed. It shows you where you've been avoiding, where you've been holding on too tightly, where you've been doubting yourself. If you let it, pain can become the catalyst for the greatest transformation of your life. Some of the most powerful people you'll ever meet are not the ones who've had the easiest lives. They're the ones who've suffered deeply but refused to stay broken. They've used their pain as fuel, not an excuse. They've turned their wounds into wisdom. They've taken what was meant to break them and used it to build something stronger within themselves and in the world around them. That's what you're capable of too. But you have to stop wishing the pain away and start learning from it. Ask yourself, what is this season trying to teach me? What strength is being developed in me right now? How can I come out of this better, wiser, stronger? When you start asking those questions, pain loses its power to destroy you. It becomes a tool for your evolution. You grow through pain by staying present, not by numbing out, not by pretending everything is fine, but by being honest with yourself, by feeling it fully, and then using it as a stepping stone. One hard day at a time, one difficult choice at a time, one breakthrough at a time. Because eventually, you'll look back and realize you didn't just survive that pain. You grew through it. You became someone you never would have become without it. And that version of you is the one who can handle joy with depth, success with humility, and peace with real perspective. Focus on purpose, not problems. This is one of the most powerful shifts you can make in your mindset if you want to experience real, lasting happiness. The truth is, problems will always be a part of life. They don't disappear, they just evolve. As you grow, your problems grow with you. So, if your happiness is tied to the absence of problems, you'll never find peace. But if your happiness is rooted in purpose, you can find joy even in the middle of the storm. When you wake up every day with a strong sense of purpose, problems don't shake you the same way. They might slow you down, they might challenge you, but they don't break you. Purpose gives you a reason to keep moving forward. It gives your pain context. It turns obstacles into lessons and delays into preparation. Without purpose, every problem feels like a wall. But with purpose, every problem becomes a stepping stone. People who focus on problems get stuck. They replay their mistakes over and over in their minds. They talk more about what went wrong than what they're building. They waste energy complaining instead of creating. But people who focus on purpose, they don't ignore the problem, they just refuse to let it control the narrative. They look for solutions. They stay connected to the bigger picture. They ask, how does this fit into the journey I'm on? Instead of why is this happening to me? Purpose gives your life direction. It keeps you centered when things feel chaotic. It reminds you that you're here for something bigger than just surviving the day. And when you live with that kind of vision, happiness follows. Because you're no longer reacting to every problem that comes your way, you're responding from a place of intention. You're grounded in something deeper than your current situation. Think about the people who inspire you most. They're not the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who stayed committed to their mission, even when life hit them hard. They had every reason to quit, to focus on the struggle, but they didn't. Why? Because their purpose was bigger than their pain. They weren't living for applause or comfort, they were living to make an impact. And that gave them strength most people never tap into. When you focus on purpose, you stop chasing temporary highs. You stop needing everything to go your way to feel fulfilled. Because your joy is rooted in progress, in contribution, in alignment with who you really are. Purpose is what makes the process meaningful. It's what turns the ordinary into something extraordinary. A job becomes a calling. A conversation becomes an opportunity. A challenge becomes a chance to grow. And let's be honest, there will always be distractions. Always something to pull your attention away from what matters. Drama, doubt, delay. But when you're locked into purpose, you don't get derailed as easily. You stay focused. You stay disciplined. You don't waste time arguing with people who don't understand your vision. You don't fold under pressure. You keep building. You keep moving. Purpose is the anchor that keeps you steady when emotions run high. It reminds you of what you're fighting for. It helps you say no to the things that don't align with your values, even when they look tempting. It helps you endure the tough seasons because you know they're shaping you for something greater. And that's what produces real happiness, the kind that isn't shaken by circumstances, but is rooted in meaning. When you start living from purpose, your problems start to feel smaller. Not because they disappear, but because your perspective changes. You're no longer focused on how hard it is, you're focused on where you're going. You're no longer paralyzed by fear, you're fueled by vision. You realize that every problem is a part of the path. It's not a sign to quit. It's an invitation to grow, to adapt, to rise even on the hardest days. Purpose gives you something to hold on to. It reminds you that your life matters, that your story has value, that your struggles are not in vain. And when you know that deep down, you can find happiness even when things don't look perfect. Because happiness isn't about everything being easy, it's about everything having meaning. And meaning comes when you focus not on what's going wrong, but on what you're here to do.